Okay, number one, first thing I need to do is divide by 4. All right, so I end up with x squared equals 25. So how many solutions are there? 2. So in this case, we would say, yes, x is equal to plus or minus 5. Any questions? All right, now remember what I tried to tell you guys. All right, I'm not kidding. All right, I don't mind having a little fun and games every once in a while, but you don't have many grades. All right, and I mean it. All right, so if you mess something up, it's just not much I can do. All right, here we go. Next, solve by factoring. All right, so you're setting up your 2 sets of parentheses. All right, how do I make 2x squared? That is correct. 2x and x. All right, now I need the factors of 21. Where do I want the 3 to go? And where do I want the 7 to go? 3 goes on the right. Thank you very much. 7 goes on the left. We double check by doing a little smiley faces. And I want it to be positive 7 and negative 3. Now, remember, from there, you're just setting the factors equal to 0. 2x plus 7 equals 0. X minus 3 equals 0. So now I'm really hoping everybody can just look at that and tell me that x equals negative 7 over 2. And over here, x is equal to 3. Perfect. All right. Now for number 5, solve by completing the square. Remember, completing the square is done when the middle term is even. And there is a 1 for a leading coefficient. All right. So in order to do this, I move the 2 over to the right side and end up with x squared minus 4x. We leave a space and put equals 2. You good with that? Mm-hmm. Now, everybody remember, you're taking half of b and squaring it. That's how you complete the square. So half of negative 4 is, and when you square it, so you're adding 4. Now, the reason why you do that is because now this trinomial is a perfect square. All right. And that, of course, will always factor to whatever the half was. What was the half? Negative 2. X minus 2 squared equals 6. Does anybody need a refresher on that? Anybody have any questions? And now, I just factored this. And I factored that into x minus 2 times x minus 2. Yeah, it always factors to whatever the half was. What's half of negative 4? That's why it was negative 2 squared. Okay. You with me? Yeah. All right.
Maybe you could write a little, then if you could just like take the half and then like put it down and square it. Like why do you get the whole x squared minus 4x plus 4? Like you just look at negative 4x and then put x minus 2 squared.
Well, but then you wouldn't know what you're adding to the right side.
Well, like you can do that, but if you don't have
Nora, you can do it however you want. Okay. Now x minus 2 is equal to
plus or minus radical 6.
Thank you. Plus or minus radical 6. And then we what? Add 2. 2 plus or minus radical 6. Okay, now remember, the quadratic formula is not going to be given to you. All right, you were supposed to write it at least 10 times. After that, you should be coming to a pretty good idea of what it was. All right, so everybody should try to write it, see if you know what it is. All right, and if you forgot what it is, it's right here. That is referred to as the quadratic formula. Anybody have any questions with that? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, of course, that's going to apply to all of these. What is a in question number 7? A equals 1. B equals what? And C equals, very nice. So now X equals the opposite of B, which becomes 3 plus or minus the square root, negative 3 squared. 9 minus 4 times A times C all over 2. Anybody have a problem with that? And now we simplify what's under the radical, which is called the discriminant. All right, so we just say X is equal to 3 plus or minus the square root of. It's not what I got. I got 53. Right. Now, what you have to remember is, in my opinion, I just count the number of negatives. We'll see, you guys. We have a big test coming up, and I can't help hurting your feelings. All right, when I give you your grade back. All right, pay attention. I always count the negatives. Negative, negative. There's 2 negatives, so it's going to be what? Adding. 4 times 11, 44. 44 plus 9, 53. All over what? All over 2. Can I simplify square root of 53? No, it's prime. So that was a nice little easy problem. All right, nice easy problem. Now, flipping the page. Do I care how you solved any of this? No, I don't. You just try to figure out the best way that you know how to solve it. All right. Number 9, you should say, well, the easiest way is by taking the square root. Number 10, you should look at number 10 and say, well, the easiest way to do that is by factoring. This one, I like to know this could be completing the square. How did I know it was completing the square? Because I know it can't factor, right? And if the middle term is even and this is a 1, then I know completing the square is the best. So I'm trying to give you some heads up now. Complete the square on what to do for these. All right, number 12. Now, notice how the middle term's odd. Does it factor? No. So I would have to use the quadratic formula. I don't want to use completing the square because this is not even. So I would want you to use the quadratic formula on that. Right? I want you to do the quadratic formula on that. Come on, what?
Is there anyone that has multiple ways to solve it? Or...
Yeah, they all do. I can solve them all. Any method. They all, but some are just easier to solve a different method. Right? Like if I can factor it, I'm not doing the quadratic. I hate the quadratic formula. I'm not doing it unless I have to. All right. Now, 14. Now, this one looks like it can factor, but it cannot. The reason why it cannot is because 4 times 5 is positive 20. Are there any factors of 20 positive that make 1? Now, 4 and 5 don't. It would work if the plus 5 was a what? Minus 5, right? So in this case, we have to use the quadratic formula. All right. All right, now we'll need everybody to jump down to, let's look at 23 real quick. How do I solve this proportion? Cross multiply. 2x plus 1 multiplied by x equals 15. All right, so that becomes 2x squared plus x equals 15. Now I'm going to subtract the 15 because it's a quadratic. And now, does that factor? What's 2 times negative 15? Are there any factors of negative 30 that make positive 1? Yes, 5 and 6. If 6 is positive and 5 is negative, so I know that factors. All right, I know that factors. All right. Let's do a couple of these just to refresh your memory on the distance formula. All right, I'd like to do, let's try 27. All right, everybody do 27. All right, I really want you to write the distance formula also. I really want you to write the distance formula.
Can you go back up to?
All right. Here we go. Now for 27. Now, if you want, remember, this is x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. So basically the formula says subtract the x's and square them. Subtract the y's and square them. Does it matter which one you subtract? No, it doesn't. Because when you square them, it's going to always be positive. That's why it doesn't matter. But in this case, we'll just do 5 minus 3, negative 6, minus a negative 8. So what's a negative 6 minus a negative 8? Plus 8. 5 minus 3 is what? Squared is 4 plus. What's negative 6 plus 8? 2 squared. 4. So the distance between those 2 points is the square root of what? 8, which is the same now as 2 radical 2. Yeah.
So, actually, the formula at the top, it says x squared minus x1, but then you put what x1 and 1. Oh, no.
I don't know what you're talking about. It says x2 minus x1, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you put x1 and then y1. Oh.
You all right or not?
Yeah.
All right, now Pythagorean theorem. All right, let's do number 35. Let's do number
Question like this in the Jesuit. I don't know, I just.
35. So if you want, you're expected to know the formula a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Square root of 6 squared plus 2 radical 6 squared equals c squared. What's the square root of 6 squared? 6 plus, now the hard one, 2 radical 6 squared. How much? 2 squared. Square root of 6 squared. 6. 6 times 4. There you have it. Whoever said 24, good job. So 6 plus 24 is, and now I just have to take the, right, so we say the square root of 30. The square root of 30 break down. No, 15 times 2, but that's not a perfect square. All right. Now let's do one more example and then I will turn you loose. Let's do 36. Again, I would write a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus 6 square root of 3 squared equals 12 squared. All right, I need some help. A squared plus, what's 6 squared?
6.
What is square root of 3 squared? 36 times 3. Thank you very much, 108. And of course, 12 squared we all know is 144. So now I subtract 108. So a squared is equal to what? 36. So a is just what? Right, square root of 36. which is 6. Anybody have any questions with that? All right, now I didn't make it as lengthy as I normally, because I think it's a process. All right, so I don't think you should have many problems with the distance formula and the Pythagorean theorem. Generally, most kids have an issue with solving quadratics. I cannot emphasize to you the importance of being able to solve a quadratic. All right, so what I want to do is I'll give you like 10 minutes. I'm going to put the video on pause. I'm going to give you like 10 minutes. Try to find one you think might be a little challenging and do that, and then I'll work it for you on the board. All right, it can be anything, any of the problems, 1 through 36, but find a couple problems you think might be a little challenging for you, and then I will put the answers up on the board. I'm going to set the timer for 10 minutes. Okay, someone asked me already about this factoring down here, right? So let's take a look at this. 23 cross multiplied, then we set it equal to 0, and then we went to factor it. Where does the 5 go? On the what? On the left, right? And 3 goes on the right, because I know that 5x and 6x can make 1x if the 6 is what? And the 5 is, there you have it. All right, and then from there, you're supposed to say 2x minus 5 equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, so x is equal to, or x could be, there you have it. All right, now does anybody else want me to do another example problem? Any of them?
I have another problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
25.
All right, let's take a quick look at 25. It's just a formula. Again, you should write down this is x1, y1. This is x2, comma, y2. The formula is to say x2 minus x1. So -7 minus a -7, which would be +7, plus 8 minus -6 squared. -7 plus 7 is 0. 0 squared is 0. 14 squared is 196. And what's the square root of 196? $14. All right, someone else, come on. Yes, ma'am. Hold on a second, Ryan, what?
I was being just.
Everybody take a quick look at 15. Now, in this one, I wish you would just be able to look at that and say it's plus or minus 6/5. All right, an easy way is to isolate the x squared and say x squared is equal to 36 over 25. Do you agree? And then I can take the square root. So plus or minus 6/5. The other way you can do it is just say, well, that factors into 5x plus 6 and 5x minus 6. You with me on that? That's 2 quick methods. All right, somebody else. Oh, yeah. Ryan.
Yes,
11, here we go. Well, you could do the quadratic formula, but because the middle term is even, it's an easy one to do completing the square. So let's complete the square. X squared minus 4x, we leave a space, equals 6. Now we half and square the middle term. What's half and -4? And then when I square it, plus 4, plus 4. Now it factors to whatever the half was. What was half? That's right. So x minus 2 squared equals 10. Now I need to take the, so x minus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 10. And then do what?
And she just add, she would.
That's correct. 2 plus or minus. How's that? Go ahead.
Is the negative not even wrong? That's good.
I added 2 to both sides, right?
Did help with, number 24.
All right, let's, everybody take a quick look at 24. Now, this one doesn't factor, it's not even, so I'm gonna do the quadratic formula. Right? So x equals negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. I don't know who asked me for that. Is that looking good?
Yeah.
And so now we just have
Yeah, not really.
you happy with that?
Yes, thank you. Can you do,
Hold up, Max.
can you do number, 9, please?
Now this one, you're just isolating the square term. So you add 5. Does that make sense so far, Max?
Yeah.
Now you take the square root. And everybody now knows, just look at 18. We don't say the square root of 18, we just say plus or minus 3 radical 2. So x is equal to 3 plus or minus 3 radical 2. Thank you very much.
Can you do 16?
How much?
16, I think I know if you would.
Add 8.
Yeah, that's what I thought it would be.
All right, Nora.
Well, when you do the-
Are we doing the distance formula here? Everybody okay with 28? Thanks for it too. I don't know if anybody did that yet, but
like,
what time's the bell ring? Yeah, 4 minutes. All right, guys, so I just would like you to have everything done for tomorrow. And then I can just sit down and you can just tell me which ones you had trouble with and I'll just zip through it. All right, try to get them all done. All right, every bit of it. All right. As always.